old Palestinian kid in Illinois 26 times. And he used to play with him. They used to be friends. But he went in, marching into their apartment, stabbing his mother and killing him, shouting, all Muslims could die.
Yeah.
It took you 80 years to change one word from Jewish to Muslim. And then you transferred your guilt to us and took away our land.
Bاسم, let me ask you a question.
That deal sucks, man.
Let me ask you a question. How do we get from where we are now to peace?
Well, first of all, you need to change the perception. Nikki Haley, the American presidential candidate, said, we are in Israel in this because it's a fight between good and evil. Now, if you already decided someone is good, he can do no evil. And if you decided someone is evil, it's good to kill them. Killing them is good. You see, the thing is, it is not like something new. I mean, I look at history and I see, I'm sorry to say this, but Westerners has always dealt like this with indigenous people. You first treated them like savages, you know, Native American, First Nation, Aboriginal. They're savages. Kill all the savages. And then when they're almost extinct, you start feeling sorry for them, you know, like animals. So maybe the solution is that we kill as many Palestinians as possible so the few of them that remains do not bother you. And maybe Netanyahu, when he lives for another 100 years, he'll become a tree hugger.
Let me just challenge you on this.
And he will campaign for preserving the three Palestinians.
You keep talking about Westerners like me. Okay, so let me return the favor, okay? Hamas is dedicated to the complete eradication of Jewish people.
I am not the spokesman for Hamas.
I'm not saying you are.
Why do you keep...
I'm not saying you are.
I'm not their spokesman.
You're talking to me.
I fucking hate them. Fuck Hamas. Hamas. Are you happy?
You're missing my point. You're talking in a generalized way about people in the West who always talk about Arabs as savages. I don't.
No. I'm talking about America.
I actually led the campaign. I led the media campaign in this country against the Iraq War. Okay, so I don't see. I don't see people in the Middle East as savages.
You are one of the good ones.
But what I would say is,
I'm talking about you. You're great.
No, it's not about me being great.
We love you.
It's about the way Hamas behaved on October the 7th was like savages, like a pack of savages. It was the worst atrocity against Jewish people since the Holocaust. There has to be,
of course,
there has to be a response.
They should be eradicated.
My question to you is, notwithstanding the history, Baasim, what is the proportionate response?
But I don't know. But there's no Hamas in the West Bank, and they're still dying there. So what's your excuse?
I don't have any excuse.
Okay, what's your explanation? Sorry, my earpiece went down.
Listen, I don't make any pretense that this hasn't been a massive problem between Palestine and Israel going back to the mid-40s. We all know this, right?
Piers, listen. I'm not saying that you're making excuses, but if you are adopting a certain point of view, you have to at least defend it. I'm telling you, there is no Hamas in the West Bank. What is the excuse? Not your excuse. What is the excuse to kill those people?
Well, listen, this question of proportionality is one that...
No, answer my question! I've been answering your question, you answer mine.
It's actually not my job to answer your questions. It's not.
Okay, not your job.
Not.
I agree with you.
I'm more interested in you, who has family in Gaza, who's an Egyptian in the Middle East, right? I'm more interested in what you have to say.
Okay, I'm telling you, I think Hamas is the problem, okay?
Right.
Now, let's say Hamas is removed. Let's Hamas. I'm agreeing with everything. You want me to condemn Hamas? I will condemn Hamas, Hummus, Hassan, everybody. Guys, so wait. I can't hear you. The earpiece. Damn. Okay. Oops. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I do need help.
I think. Okay. Just go back. Is he there?
You go back.
Can you hear me?
Okay, go. Thank you, guys.
Can you hear Baasim?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Can you hear? Okay. So let's say, for example, Hamas ceased to exist. Okay? Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Hamas ceased to exist today. Now, right now, in Palestine, in West Bank and Gaza, 20% of Palestinians go through Israeli prison system, whether imprisonment, whether interrogation, whether torture. And the rest of them, they live a life of daily loss of land, of homes, of life, and they are suffocated by this. So let me ask you something. If you are a Palestinian living into these conditions for decades, would you sympathize with your oppressor, or sympathize with the people who claim they resist them even if they are terrorists.
I have made no secret that I think the conditions Palestinians have had to exist under are completely unacceptable. Yeah. I've said that for years. So the question then becomes, how do you forge peace between two warring parts of that region who for decades have approached peace, in my view, with mutual sledgehammers, with no actual desire to have peace? And I think it comes down in the end to great leadership. And I don't think there's great leadership. I don't think, well, hang on, let me make my point. I don't think there's great leadership on either side. Where is the Nelson Mandela figure here to come through all this hatred on both sides?
Nelson Mandela?
Yeah, well, where is that
Nelson
figure?
Nelson Mandela actually have criticized Israel for being a horrible state. All of the South African activists have actually called Israel.
My point is about how he responded to a country that was so divided. Is a template for how you get to peace, isn't it?
I haven't met Nelson Mandela, so I wouldn't know. But like there is a point. There's a very important point here. You know, I want to understand what is the logic of Israel carpet bombing Gaza. I mean, if there's a logic, if this will make Israel safe, I want to hear the logic. So if they continue bombing, what are they hoping to achieve?
Well, I think we know what their stated aim is. Their stated aim is to eradicate and wipe out Hamas. They believe Hamas are living predominantly in northern Gaza. They also are aware they're living amongst civilians. So it's an incredibly difficult thing. As I said in my monologue, you know, it is very, very difficult to see how they do this without massive collateral damage.
So if I can understand this correctly, basically Israel is doing this to pressure the Palestinian community in Gaza to turn against Hamas. Is that right?
I'm sure that's part of it, yes.
That's part of it. So this is exactly what terrorist organizations do, because terrorist organizations will have no chance beating a whole nation in battle. So they terrorize and they kill the civilians in order to spread fear and terror so they can turn against their government to change their policy or to resign. You have just compared Israel with ISIS.
No, I haven't. I don't see any comparison between
It's going to be the headlines tomorrow. Piers Morgan, Israel is ISIS.
Only amongst people who weren't listening. The comparison, which is more apposite, is ISIS and Hamas. They are both nihilistic terror groups intent on killing as many Jewish people and others as they can possibly kill. And you can't get peace with people like that.
Absolutely. You know what? I'm going to do something that nobody done on your television. You know what I'm going to do on your episode? I'm going to pretend that I'm an Israeli citizen. I'm going to put myself in the place of an Israeli settler in the kibbutz. And I want to speak to my Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, I have voted for you because you have promised us peace and prosperity and security. On the 7th of October, those son of bitches Hamas, they went into the fence that is regularly heavily guarded. Usually if there's like a dove that comes close to it, it will be shot. Those people went in and they went for 6 hours before IDF forces was deployed, killing our friends, our families, kidnapping our grandmothers and babies, and went in. I want to ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, after you have fractured the Israeli community and you have fucked our courts, our Supreme Courts, what are you doing with the money being given to you, to the United States? Also, you are carpet bombing Gaza with absolutely no regard to our hostages, our people. I heard a rumor in the kibbutz that you're doing that you let that happen as an excuse to carpet bomb Gaza, so you push them into Sinai. And I didn't believe that. That's like, not my Prime Minister. He can never do that. And then I watched an interview for Danny Ayalon. He was your chief advisor. He was also the Israeli ambassador to the United States. And you know what he said, Mr. Prime Minister? He said that the solution for those Palestinians is to go into a vast land of Sinai and live into tent cities temporarily, temporarily, wink wink, until we build Gaza again, and then we invite you back. يعني عبط احنا بقى. يعني فاهمني؟ We've seen this movie before. So يعني, and when I saw this, I couldn't explain to my fellows in the kibbutz, how come our Israeli government is trading human lives for another piece of land? So as an Israeli citizen, I need to hold my Israeli government accountable. And as an American citizen, I want to know all of these money that we are giving to Israel. We're giving them $4 billion every year. Joe Biden said it's the best investment America ever done. Well, if I am in the place of Joe Biden, I would say, sorry, don't speak. I would say, if I was Joe Biden, I would go down and whisper in the ears of Netanyahu and tell them, I hate bad investments. They haunt me, like Littlefinger in Game of Thrones. But the thing is, this is the problem. Israel always victimizes itself, and I have never seen a victim putting their oppressor under siege and bombing them 24/7. Israel wants you to believe that they are the victim. Dealing with Israel is so difficult. It's like being in a relationship with a narcissistic psychopath. He fucks you up, and then he makes you think it's your fault.
All right,
you
Bاسم.
look at Israel as Superman, but they're really Homelander.
Bاسم.
Wallahi, they are shooting
Bاسm, I want to
fish
say
in a
one
barrel,
thing.
and they are annoyed with the splashes.
Bاسm, I want to say two things. One, if you could just slightly manage your language. We are uncensored, but if you keep swearing,
I'm very sorry.
We have to apologize to viewers who may be offended by that.
I apologize.
But I understand passions run high, so let's not get too bogged down about the old swear word.
I apologize to the viewers. I apologize to the viewers for my language.
My second question is this.
After the sight of dead civilians.
After the break, we have the managing director of the Daily Wire, which is Ben Shapiro's company. We were going to interview him on his own, but he's happy to come on and talk with you directly if you are prepared to stay.
Well, of course, I can stay, but again, I am in a disadvantage, and I would like to have my space to respond.
Okay, we'll come back after the break.
Because here's the thing. There's
Bاسm,
two things
we're going to go to a break.
All right.
When we come back from the break, we'll be you and Jeremy Boring from the Daily Wire.
I have news.
We're taking a short break, Bاسm. I'll be back. Welcome back to Uncensored. For more on the situation in Israel, I'm joined now by the CEO and co-founder of the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro's partner, Jeremy Boring. Jeremy, thank you very much indeed for joining me. I'm sorry we demoted you earlier to mere MD. You are the CEO and co-founder. You know Ben Shapiro better than anyone, really. I did a big interview with Ben, obviously, the other night, which went around the world and has sparked a big reaction, including from our guest, Bاسm Yusuf, who's still with us. First of all, you've been listening to Bاسm and what he's been saying. What's your response?
Well, first of all, I make it a point not to speak for Ben Shapiro. He's got a 20 IQ points on me and speaks for a living professionally, so he's much better prepared to defend himself. But as his business partner, as his best friend, I do feel like I have to respond to the things that Bاسm was just saying. First of all, the question of how many sons of bitches have to be killed in order to end this conflict, I suppose that the answer is as many of them as it takes. That doesn't mean that I or Ben or any decent person in their right mind is happy with the killing of civilians. I posted at the very beginning of this conflict that a woman or a child blown apart in Gaza is just as tragic as a Jewish baby killed in one of the settlements. That doesn't mean that Israel's actions and the actions of Hamas are morally equivalent. You know, the tragedy is the tragedy, but the moral equivalency is nonsense. If you entered Israel with the express purpose of targeting and murdering civilians with your own hands in cold blood, that is not comparable to Israel bombing targets in the Gaza Strip and killing civilians as a terrible, tragic consequence. War is terrible. War is an awful thing. That's why decent people don't lightly engage in war, and why Hamas should not have incited this war. You know, we can talk about the history of the Israeli conflict. I'm not a professional political commentator. I'm a CEO. I'm a screenwriter, and I'm certainly not Ben Shapiro. I'm not here to discuss the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but we all saw what happened on October 7th. And the idea that Israel was not going to react severely to that, or that Israel should not react severely to that, is ludicrous. And the idea that Ben Shapiro should be a moderating voice, that Ben Shapiro should be, saying, no, Israel should not respond in this situation, that's nonsense.
Let me ask you, though, Jeremy, the question which I think is the big question. What is a proportionate response to that outrage on October the 7th, which is the worst attack on Jewish people since the Holocaust? What is proportionate? If it's true, as reports are suggesting tonight, that there may have been a hospital hit by an Israeli strike and up to 500 people or more have died, that would seem to me, if that is verified, and it's not verified yet, we don't know exactly what has happened other than there's been a hit on this hospital. But if that is verified to have been an Israeli strike, that will strike many people as disproportionate.
Certainly. Well, first of all, I don't know what a proportionate response is or why we would want it. I suppose a proportionate response would be for 3,000 Israelis to go through the fence, gun down innocent Palestinian women and children, burn their bodies, burn them alive, take hostages, rape their women. No one wants a proportionate response. No moral person could possibly call for a proportionate response. The purpose of war is to defeat your enemy. The West has, in my lifetime, forgotten the purpose of war because the true cost of war is so terrible. The last time the West engaged in war and won it was World War II. And they did it through incredible brutality. They did it by bringing their enemies to heel.